Stood at the top of the stairs now, sat at the top, and I stood at the bottom, and we had a brief talk on what to do. I don't handle. She's cocky as hell.
Oh, I know. She's got a bad attitude.
I don't trust her, Mark. She's a killer. She kills, Mark. She killed her husband.
Yeah, I know she's got a bad spirit. Well, again,
I don't know. You know, I know it's hard to believe, Mark, but I'm telling you.
No. Let me say this, Pop. It is hard to believe. It is possible. I know she has an evil spirit in her. I've seen her murderous spirit. There's no doubt about that.
She admits it, Mark.
Well, if it is possible, if it is true, she can't be that. I mean,
there's no if. There's no if. I know there's no absolutely positively no if, Mark. Please, on my life, believe
me. But just tell me something again real quick, because I got you on recording here. You're telling me that there was an incident a while ago where she was standing up higher on something taller than you, she picked you up and threw you down?
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
She picked you up and threw you down, and what happened? You cracked your ribs or you hurt your hip?
Cracked the ribs. I got three. I think it's three cracked. I had to go to the hospital. I spent 2 days, 2 nights in the hospital, but that's old news.
I didn't know that old news. And from her,
absolutely. I spent St. Peter's.
From her,
Around 2 o'clock was, and I don't know, it was early morning, because I remember there were no people, no cars there, not many, and we went right to they took me right to the ER.
Hold on, Pop. Say that again. You said she's got you what? So beat up?
Yeah, beat up. Do you understand?
Yeah, okay. Alright, I'm sorry.
Oh, God.
Yeah, you don't look good, Dad. You don't look good.
Of course I don't look good. She's killing me. I'm dying faster than I ought to die. I could have squeezed out a little bit more life. Nobody wants to help. Mark, listen to me. It is imperative that you get a hold of me. She's dangling that she quite likely will kill me tonight, and if she won't, she certainly threatened me enough. And she reels that knife around, Mark. She's gonna kill me. Mark, I'm gonna count on you to rescue me. You gotta get me out of here. So I'm gonna leave you this number. I'm gonna go. I don't know where I'm gonna hide out here, but call me. These rooms are so close, I have to be nearer, so I'm gonna ask you to call me. Whatever time it is when you get this, I'll have this phone right by my head. And I'm gonna fly you in here as soon as you get here. And we're gonna vacate. I can't do this anymore. Call me, please, son. Whatever time it is, I'll have this right under my pillow. This cell phone. 477-3085. 477-3085. Area 518. I don't know where to try to sleep, but I don't know. Call me, Mark. Please call me. I'll fly you in here tomorrow as soon as we can. Day after, we'll take whatever I can and get out of here. I'll wait for your call. Thanks, son.
God bless. I am Mark Anthony DiBello. I'm leaving this message for March 31st, 2025. It's the 1-year date of remembrance of the death of my father, Anthony Francis DiBello. And I'm wearing this black because I've been mourning him all week. and I'm also working, going over a lot of things in his life and my life, and a lot of it has to do with persecution and prosecution. So let me just say everything I'm to say, I'll put my hand on a Bible in a court of law. If God is my witness, who knows I'm not going to lie about my father or even my mom or myself at this point. And also, you can put me on a lie detector to see I'm telling the truth. And I have evidence. I have all sorts, paperwork, recordings. Some were accidentally heard, when the line was left open, messages left by my dad, conversations at some point. 63 years of knowing him. So I also have to say that I don't want, regardless of what I say, I don't want any criminality to come to anybody, any sinfulness more so, which means, the basic, commandment, thou shalt not kill. Imprisonment, I do believe, is warranted. Certainly not mine. My dad and I are both victims. I'll get to that. I'll try to keep this message to an hour unedited or less and just try to give some highlights of this life update. I might even put in some inserts, which means you might see an image of, or a recording. Sorry, my cat. Kitty, I love you, but can you get down? Okay, so I love Kitty Boy. My daddy loved animals too. I love it. I love them. They were here before us, before humans. You don't love an animal, you'll never love a person properly. And you'll never love God more so properly. But anyway, so again, I'm wearing this because I've been praying and meditating and working, just working very hard. And, I post these recordings and things, and you might see this, and I think it's going to be my 300th video on YouTube. And I do it to memorialize and honor and remember my mom and dad, and in a way elongate my life and document it and record it. I don't believe I have any children. I wish I had a son or a daughter and a wife, but I don't. So in a way, it's just eternalizing my life. Thank God for the gift and the teaching that my dad gave me for that. Honor and respect video and appreciate it and use it, and even the recorded image of voice or music or whatever it is, or even writing and documenting things. So having said that, again, I don't ask that any criminality be done against anybody. I might pepper this speech with some preaching, which I just can't help but to do, a couple political things maybe, and the prospecticide that occurred to my dad. But again, I just have to say that because it's just my nature. It's my dad's nature. I mean, he even called, and I'll get to this, and we always defend life. I mean, now there's a reason they have jails, and there's a reason they have, I have a higher standard to follow than the courts and the law. I have the court of God and the commandments. I mean, there's a lot of things in, our country of the United States of America and the world that are legal, that God, to him, are sinful. And, you really only have to go to the commandments. There's, there's only 10 of them, right? I mean, and the basic, few are, thou shalt not kill, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal. Don't kill, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal. That's it. It's not hard. So anyway, having said that, a little bit of background. I don't know who's watching. I would pray that half the world watches so they can hear me talk about the God that I know and devoted my life to the last, at least 30 years, and certainly my honoring my mommy and my dad, who I adore and miss them both. And my mommy, well, she died when I was just 21. So I only knew her 21 years, and she had her family to support her, like my dad primarily, and then me. And even some of her children were better children back then, more godly. And a lot of friends and extended family. But my daddy, I had him for 63 years, 3 times more. And he didn't have people he felt loved him around him who were going to save his life, but people who were trying to destroy him and profit from him and bankrupt him and betrayed him and disrespected and rejected him. And a government that couldn't have been more evil. And a judge who has blood on their hands. So, that's why it hurts so much more. Time heals all wounds, but it's different. It's different when somebody's literally, and he died on Easter. Easter this year is April, I think, 20th. But when he died, it was March 31st, again, the day I'm remembering his death. And he was essentially crucified. He was sent to his cross just a day or two before. And he died Easter morning. Now, I don't find that a coincidence. And I'll share some things about heaven and actually 2 visitations to, like, people saw, if you believe in Jesus or you're a Christian or, you believe in God, and I've studied all the religions, certainly studied Islam and Judaism and, Christianity, the big 3. But, every religion has a version of God. But I've also studied atheism and how people who don't believe in God or they believe in the universe as God, which is absurd. The universe is an inanimate object. I mean, it doesn't have a mind. It doesn't have a spirit or a heart like God, Father God does. But I'll get to that. So, for those who might know or not know, again, my daddy was the youngest of 6 kids. He was born in Mechanicsville, New York. His father, my grandpa, was a laborer, hard work in a paper mill. He was even a janitor there. Hard work when you first come to a new country. And he married my mom, his wife Josephine, my grandma, beautiful woman. Had 6 kids. My daddy was the youngest, but my daddy was even though, the youngest and tiniest, sort of the runt of the litter, if you will, he was the most blessed, like a little King David. Smart, handsome, creative, hardworking, talented, creative, just one of the most amazing man I've ever met, even more than me, because I think I'm blessed. People can think what they want. I don't really care. I only care what God thinks. I mean, I would love it if people loved me and more so loved God, but I have a saying, and it's that God has the keys to the kingdom. I don't have to please anybody but him. Nobody's got the keys but him. And then the only other rule I have to follow is to honor my mom and dad. And then don't kill. Don't kill the critters. Don't kill my parents. Don't kill even the people who hurt him or might have, murdered him or killed others or destroyed people. I mean, and certainly try not to kill myself, which is very hard sometimes. But right now, I'm the extension of my daddy. So, as I was saying, he met my mom. And, at the time, he just worked as a manager in a radio station, just a regular job like a normal, regular person. And my mom worked at the phone company. And then my dad became a promoter. And, my mom and dad were married, I think it was 1959, if I'm not mistaken. So they're married, and they have me in 1960, their first child. And then they would have, 7 others after me in about the span of 10 years. But here's the thing. There's a hierarchy to the way God made things. There's a godly order to creation and to godliness and goodness. And that order that's why he says honor the father and the mother. Man was here first, then the woman. My mom honored my dad. My dad loved and honored my mom. And he was good to his first child, me. And if I'm not born, and I'm not taking credit for this, but if I'm not blessed in, I think, being just like my daddy, like I sometimes say, 10 times better in a lot of ways, but 10 times worse in a lot of ways. But mostly worse because my daddy was a father. I'm not one. I don't exist if it wasn't for my dad and my mom And they were great parents. I go back and you might see some of the home videos I've been posting. They gave us everything. They did it the right way. They started with nothing, and they did it through hard work and love and no sin and no criminality. He basically built a small empire, a small fortune, beautiful home, got us everything we could ever ask for to play with, taught us about God and love and togetherness and the family, respect, just godly principles of goodness. Don't kill, don't murder. Like I said, don't lie, cheat, steal. I couldn't have been more blessed. And then my mommy died in 1982, but like I said, she had my dad to get her the best hospice care. She had me, her eldest son, who adored her favorite son, by her side. She had other family who were different back then. They had a godly mother, an extended family and friends. And she died of pancreatic cancer, which in ways is, I guess you could say, a natural death. It's hard to get over. I still think about it. Obviously, time does heal in a way. But I hate death. I hate it. I hate it so much. I hate it. I really hate it. So, after my mommy dies, my dad, he did his best to try to raise the kids. Now, I'm going to say something, because, again, I said I'll say some preaching and politics, but I also do a lot. I've been blessed with math, like my dad. We're good with numbers. We're also blessed, I think, to be good writers and maybe speakers. Not so much, I don't think, as the other two. But we taught, he was taking video and people were mocking him for doing so, way before cell phones. But he worked hard to, he knew what the value of those videos would be in home movies and things to that effect. So, anyway, having said that, mathematically, I just want to say a few things. And you kind of hear this, like I always say 90-10, 90%, 10%. And you might have heard scientists say, like, people only use 10% of their brain. So let me give you a little preaching here. And if I lean forward, it's only because I'm looking at the clock on the phone here, so I can, keep this message to on pace, 13 minutes. Yeah, on pace for half hour, maybe an hour, probably more than a half hour. But anyway, so and prayerfully you learn about God through this, and even my daddy and my mom. And if you want to learn about me, well, God bless you. And there's my cat, Kitty Boy. So hopefully he just stays there, because I love him, but sometimes it's hard to concentrate. So I think he'll just lay there, the E-boy. My daddy loved animals. My mommy too. We had Coco, who I realized, was chocolate, like a chocolate poodle. Kitty Boy, get down. So that's why I guess she called him Coco. I don't know what he's doing after he's playing football, right? My dad had a sense of humor too. He was charismatic. I think sometimes I don't want to compliment myself, but I think I have those qualities as well. But loved animals. And we had Shimmy or Shemaine, and then we had little Nugget. My mom, we had a lot of animals, but my mommy, they like, I'm in Las Vegas, and they like gambling. They weren't degenerates about it, certainly, but so my mom named Golden Nugget a Cocker Spaniel after the hotel casino Golden Nugget. So we used to love Nugget. Kitty Boy, please get down. Thank you. I love you. God bless you. You good little boy. You're a good little kitty boy. But go sit down and relax. He likes this chair. I'll let him back in when I'm done. So anyway, so they loved the animals. They just were godly people, but they did it the right way. Kitty, okay, I love you, but come on. All right, stay here. Or go sit down here. Go sit down. Come on, kitty boy, please. Go lay down. Go lay down, kitty. All right, so I'm sorry about that. But they did it the right way. You see, they started with nothing, and God blessed them. They built, and finances isn't everything, but there's two gods that people serve. It's love and money. I'm not sorry.
God and money are typically, are the two gods, and the devil is the one who represents most of the money. Although you could be godly and have money, my mom and dad did it. But anyway, so what I was going to say about the 90-10 thing is 90% of people are evil. They're just evil. The things they do are evil. The things they think, they don't use their brain. They don't think like God, who's 100%, if you will. He's perfect. People use 10% of their brain, that, just by an example. I mean, I could throw in other examples, like police people. I was taught to respect the police. Like, you think police are good? No, I've dealt with them hundreds of times. 90% of them are ungodly. They lie. I mean, they just don't believe in God. I mean, only 10% are good. Same thing with, like, you hear the media and you hear this expression from President Trump, fake news. I mean, they lie. They don't know the truth. 90% are just evil, or they're just criminal, But again, you don't want to, I don't know if you call it necessarily turning the other cheek, but that's why we have jails. You don't want to kill people. You don't want to kill yourself. You don't want to be made suicidal by a person who harms or hurts you, or your father, or your parents, or anybody you really love, or animals. And I'll get to that. But again, so this 90-10, and like, even just for where people spend eternity, I don't know who's in heaven or hell. That's up to God. He's the final judge. People they're just wrong when they think, oh, well, everybody goes to heaven. That's a huge lie. Also, like that, or where people are going to go, only God knows. You know what I mean? But heaven is the hardest place to get in. There's not as many people as people think, I can promise you, that are in heaven. You have to be, God has to just have you to be one of the top human beings in the history of creation, or you're not going to be in heaven. I can promise you that. That's just the way it is. But you won't hear that from people. But anyway, so again, with this 90-10 thing, my dad was 90% and my mom 90%. And there's a couple, 90% did it the right way, the godly way, and that's why they were blessed. Me too, I tried to do 90%. Now, I'm not perfect. My dad's not, wasn't perfect. And I call out the 10% on people. I call it out on myself. I call it out on them. I call it out, on others. I mean, that's just, you try to be perfect. There's even I'm not want to be a lot of Bible scripture, but there's a scripture that says, be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. Try to be perfect. But again, just don't sin. Don't be a criminal. Don't hurt. Don't kill. Don't use and abuse people. Don't betray. Don't reject. Don't disrespect. There's a godly order, like I said, to creation. So anyway, having said that, I'll get into the life update here a little bit more. Try to accelerate things. And I don't know if I'm going to do the inserts. It's just hard. And I've been doing other videos, and I think you're going to see a lot of things. I pray that, I'm not incarcerated, and because I think that might still be a threat. Actually, the other day, believe it or not, Secret Service contacted me and wanted to know if I was a threat to the country. It could only have been a Democrat who didn't like something I said about the current administration, which I'm very much a proponent of and predicted President Trump years before he was even elected, or the supporters of this person, this cult-like person who destroyed my father's life and my life. But again, I want no harm. My dad said the same. My dad actually, well, I'll get to this, but my dad wanted to see the person. I said, Dad, at first I said, Dad, we don't want to see anybody in jail. I've been to jail, falsely accused and falsely arrested. It's terrible. It's very suicidal being in jail. And I'm also, like my dad was afraid of being killed, I'm also afraid that somebody on their side might hurt me. Because here's the thing, and this is a little kind of preaching about deception and lies. And I'll get to this, because if you're following this message, I'm really talking about the life and death of my daddy and the criminal case that's involved with that. So let me step back and tell you, well, I'll continue on about the deceit of the devil. So the three lies you don't hear about most from the devil are this. And I've already talked about one before. One is when, like you ask me, like, how many fingers am I holding up? See, now, you can say 5, you can say 4. See, you can have a play on words and lie to people. See, because sometimes you're taught 5, but this is actually 4 fingers and a thumb. See, so technically speaking, truth be told, if you want to say it that way, 4 fingers and a thumb. Now, if I put this hand, so there's one version of lie. So if I put this hand under here and told you, like, how many fingers am I holding up? See, let's say I'm holding up 1, okay? And I tell you I'm holding up 1. You say, no, you're not. I don't believe you. You're holding up 2, 3, 4. See, if this was some other thing, I know this might not be the best analogy. It's endless. Lies are endless. The truth is very singular. There's one truth. There's one truth. That truth is either what truly actually happens or the way God thinks about things, the way God sees things, God's law, God's commands, the way God's mind is on things. That's his mindset. That's the truth. Okay, so that's the second way, and I have 2 people in my life, at least in my dad's life, the 2 very important people next to me were this person he was with. I don't even like to say her name. My dad, in most of the recording, calls her pig, whore, bitch. I mean, I can get that. Not to use swear words. Pig is one thing, whore is another thing, bitch is another thing. I mean, they're not really swear words. Bitch, female dog. Whore, somebody who uses somebody for money. You could be, a waitress who wiggles her bottom. You could be somebody out on the strip they have here. Or you could just be somebody who wants to marry a lawyer or a doctor for money, or a rich man and you're poor and you just use and abuse him for money and you're younger and you're, 20 years younger and you're called a gold digger. That's, whore. Pig could be, it's obviously an animal. Sometimes they call police that. I don't really use that. But, actually it's a term from Charles Manson. I actually worked, had a couple interactions with Leslie Van Houten. She was actually a Manson disciple, and I put this on this page. This link I am going to put so you can hear my dad's own voice, so you don't have to just believe me. But she was recently released, thank God. And I mean, she's a nice woman after 50 years or something in jail, was a member of a cult. I understand that when you're in a cult. I understand what that's like, to be drugged and have, 50 years ago, I've followed this woman's case, just recently talked to her lawyer or emailed with her lawyer, we communicated. She's a nice woman. She learned her lesson. I mean, I said this, I would rather be that woman, as Leslie Van Houten is my neighbor, than the one that was with my father for the sins and the crimes she committed against my dad, that my dad begged to be set free. But I'll get to that, so I'll expedite it here a little bit. So the third lie, okay, the one is, sort of the mingle, the mixing and, deception behind words. 2 is just not believing some truth that somebody tells you, This is kind of a lighthearted version because I thought a little bit about what I might say. Somebody says, oh, when's your birthday? It's December 18th. No, it's not. I know my birthday. What do you mean, no, it's not? Or if you said something like, oh, it's February 29th, leap year, once every... No, it's not. I don't believe you. My birthday's on Christmas. No, I don't believe you're lying. I'm not lying. You're not believing me doesn't make me a liar. It means you're being deceived. Now, my father's second-born son, he's done that to me for 35. As a matter of fact, most of his children have. That's just evil. That's just them being deceived or just not having a God. I'll get to that. Because when you don't believe in the God, or how God really is, or the commandments of God, you think you're God because you set your own set of rules. You what you think and what you feel in your heart, that's your God. Or, like I said, you don't have a God, or you just think the laws and the Constitution are God. No, the commandments mean more, obviously, than the Constitution. Now, the third lie that is really, not tough to detect, but I hear it and you can see it, and you see this in politics a lot, is when you're doing something wrong, you accuse the other person, or another person. Some people, you can call it projection, deflection, whatever you want to call it. But you're the one who's abusing somebody. You're the one who's stealing. You're the one who's a threat to the person's life. It's this kind of lie that's really deceptive. Now, if you don't believe in God, or you're not intelligent, or you want to gravitate, maybe you're female gravitating to another female, because that's kind of how people are. They want to go, and I've listed this before, they go to their own, there's basically 5 things that people connect with. Their own gender, their own race, their own religion, their own political party, and even in a way their own sports teams. I'll kill you if you don't like my sports team. Women stick together. Religion sticks together. I've learned this in the workplace. Race, right? We have race wars. Obviously, people, I only want to, work or like or date or marry people who are the same color as me or same ethnicity, whatever the case may be. So knowing those lies, and then here's something I'll also relate, because I'm going to get to what happened here sort of with this, update of my life with regards to the criminality I was falsely accused of, and the criminality now I know my daddy was put through. In a court of law, here's what wins. And I've experienced this on all different levels. It's not God. It's not the truth. It's not justice. It's not righteousness. It's not evidence. Okay? And I'll use 90-10 again. 90% of the time, it's not that. 10% of the time, you'll get a valid, godly, truthful, just judgment. Only 10% of the time. Everything's upside down in the world. There's, upside down, 90-10. Okay? It's actually probably like 99.9 and 0.1%, but let's just say 90-10. So here's what wins in court. 3 L's. There's 5 things, but I'll just give you the 3 L's. Liar, lawyer, and likability. The better liar wins. I've got this evidence. This is an orange bottle. You're lying, it's tangerine. And I could tell you 100 times it's tangerine, even if it says orange on it, orange mango. I could tell you 100 times it's tangerine, and if I'm lying about it, or saying it's blue, green, whatever color I want to say, you'll believe me if I'm an expert liar. And that's like the first thing Satan does. He kills and he lies. Those are the first 2 things he did. He kills and he lies, basically. The better lawyer. And the ironic part, that's the way it is. And if you're innocent, or you're a victim, or let's say, stolen or ripped off, you don't have the money for a lawyer. And the irony is, you can go to a court case, which happened to me, and the person is using the money not only that my father earned and worked his whole life to make with my mother against me and him, the person's using my money that I sent from my dad that she confiscated, that my dad never got, was deprived of. She's using that money against me. And if they lie and say, you know what, I want a public defender, I don't have money. The person because this person might have had a public defender against me. If they have a house and a car, I've never owned a house, and I've owned a car in 20 years. So I get the worst lawyer. They're using the money that was sent to them. And here's the other thing: my father's second-born son Joseph, who was turned to be a Judas, total Judas to my father and me, not total, I'll say 90% Judas. He's sending this person who was supposed to be taking care of my father, money to take care of my dad. But this person isn't using the money for that. This person, he's putting it, and I've got a lot of evidence on this, in secreted, hidden bank accounts for their own use. They're not using it on my father. They're using it, if anything, to make certain they can perpetuate this case and this lie that they're going through, and profiting off of just my father, and using that money to hurt and harm him. Because, for example, my father liked to drink, well, let me get back before I get to that. So my father is suffering. He's suffering abuse. This isn't hard to find. This isn't hard to learn about. I've studied this for 30 years. Spousal. It's not hard to figure out when somebody, and this message you might hear. This message here.
I say you're rolling in. Hold it. How can you spend too much money on food?
Because it's so expensive.
Maybe you should only eat Monday, Wednesday, and Friday instead of eating every day. Yeah, well, you stop the fucking food on me. You'll stop it about 3 days in a row, and then I'll make fucking thunder and lightning like you never saw. You think you're going to stop feeding me to threaten me? It's the only thing I do now. It's the only thing I have. I have nothing. I go no place, I do nothing. You go every place and do whatever you want to do. Now you're threatening me with food? Contribute. What do you want from me? Skin? You got everything
You
now.
get $1,100 a month. You don't buy a goddamn thing. Excuse my language. You don't pay for anything. They're so cheap.
Where's the $1,100?
You owe me. It was going to be half. I said, okay.
Hold it. Where's the
You know where it is.
No, I don't know where it is.
You know this.
No, I don't know.
Joe,
Where is it? Just tell me.
it's in your checking, your savings account. Your savings account.
It goes in my savings
Yes.
account? Where?
Honey,
Oh, this
save
is...
for me every week.
Oh, yeah. You got all the money now.
You know, and where there's smoke, there's fire. This person, after going through, and I'll say this again, I'll go real quick because I think I might have mentioned this before. My father, before my mother died, he had no criminal record, no felonies on his record. He had a small fortune and a home, multiple automobiles. He had a very sound mind. He had a close-knit family. Okay, that's what he had before. Okay, when he died, he had none of that. He was homeless. He was broke. His mind was fractured. He didn't have, Alzheimer's. He didn't have dementia. He was, had been gaslighted and his mind contorted by somebody conditioned like in a cult-like situation. Okay, he had a felony because she and him worked on something called Bingo City, which you're going to see, I think, a video on. His family was completely disconnected. Okay, like I said, he had no automobiles. She birthed them no children. My mom birthed 8 children. This woman destroyed children, destroyed a family. Okay, he had animals. No animals allowed in my father's life. The only animal I saw allowed in my father's life was Little Nugget, and she's the only person I've ever seen kick Little Nugget. Kick this little beautiful little Cocker Spaniel. But my father loved animals, disallowed, and he told me why. One, and I don't want to get into all this, he was afraid she was going to kill the animal. She couldn't, she was violent. She would kill the animal. Secondly, the animal costs money. Even if it costs $10 a week, that's her money. And I've seen this countless times. So having said that, what the situation goes back to, I'm just checking the clock here, I got 30 minutes, okay. So the protection order was filed because here's what's happening. My dad is calling me up. And I knew this. This person is 21 years younger than my dad, not very classy, not talented, loves money, proved that was like in a slum when I first saw their place in Rensselaer. I mean, she's got 4 children. These are not good people, good-looking kids. They're not. I mean, when this woman got with my father, these kids came in. They were doing drugs in my father's house. Okay, God bless. I am going to have to break this video in two because I ran out of storage. So the first half, I'm just going to accelerate things because I see I could talk about this certainly all much longer than an hour. So let me just go back to a couple things really quick, and then I'll just try to get to the main points again. Where I said about the 3 things in court, again, it's the better lawyer, the better liar, and then the person who's more liked. And that we see a lot. I see a lot in politics now too, and it happens to me a lot. Evidence doesn't matter. The rule of law doesn't matter. The commandments don't matter. Sin, crime don't matter. It's just, I don't like him. I don't like her. That's especially the case with women. That's how females just are. That's why Eve was tempted and tricked and deceived, not Adam. The serpent, the devil came to Eve. He knew he could trick her. I don't like you. I don't care. And even if they know, I see the evidence. I hear the evidence. I see your father's being abused. I hear he wanted to get out. I hear he's afraid he's going to get murdered. I hear she's wielding a knife at him. I hear, she's bloodied his nose. She threw him down. She punched him. She berates him. She tells him he's cheap and doesn't contribute. She wants all the money. She says she wants the money. She doesn't give him what he wants. She takes the money. He hides it in his Bible. She takes it. She tells him, tries to convince him he has Alzheimer's. He's going to forget where he puts it. She needs it. She controls it like a cult leader or an abuser would. If she controls the bank account, he had to ask just to get $1 to get a popsicle. He'd have to and then he'd have to still get the money from her. But it's the control. It's the keeping the money for them, herself. I mean, but you know what? Doesn't matter. I don't like you. I don't like you, Mark. You're not like me. You're not a woman. You're not, like this female judge, because I'm going to get to the court case here. But that's what they rule by. I don't like you. Like, lawyer, and liar. And this person against me and my dad is cunning. My dad uses the word multiple times in messages. That's how she is. So that's what happens in a court of law. Now, what happened is this protection order was filed because my dad, he got tired of the abuse. He wanted to enjoy his life, his final, he's 90, when he got in touch with me, 88 years old. I mean, she lied about everything. I mean, Mark's getting in touch with his father because he only wants his money. Really? My own dad? Really? I have more money than my dad. I don't use my dad for money. I love my dad. We're cut from the same cloth. I just adored him. He loved me and I loved him. I've got, you didn't hear him talk negatively about my mom the way he talks about this person, this Donna. You didn't hear him fear for his life from me. He didn't hear that I was stealing him. I was beating him up. I was married him for money. I'm 20 years younger than him for money. I wasn't talking down to him, disrespecting, rejecting him. I offered to take care of him. He could have lived 10 times better the life he had than the way he died. Like a dirty dog. Like a dog, he died. So when he wanted the abuse, and I heard it. I heard her. Sit the F down. Shut the F up. You're not getting anything. I'm the effing one who feeds you. You're going to get... He's complaining about her wielding a knife at him. I mean, I heard her. I saw these things. I saw her abuse and neglect of him. Then he says she's cheating on him with another man. She's chasing other rich men. She leaves him alone all day long. He's lonely. He just wants to go places. He just wants to get away. He wants to be happy. He wants to talk to me. Watch a football game, bet a horse race, do whatever we love to do. So, she disallowed that. The money was her money. It wasn't his money. It was her money. I'd send money. She'd take it and hide it away. He liked Stewart's root beer, not from the shop, but this brand Stewart's. How much is that? Not much. But she'd get the generic kind. And she, just to make sure he got the cheapest of everything, she got the best of everything. You hear this message, she's complaining about food. It's too expensive, but the bills I saw in the bank account, she's out whining and dining all sorts of nice restaurants. Sorry, I got a little battery. So I don't know how much more I can go. So I'm going to rush it here. But anyway, so she files a protection order, and the first thing in the protection order says, Mark is dangerous threat. Really? Listen to this. I didn't go to their wedding. I've never kissed her on the cheek. I've never hugged her. I've never shook her hand. I've purposely not touched her by accident. Never put out a verbal or written threat to anybody to kill her or hurt her the way that my father feared was going to happen to him. But that's what she writes. A total outright lie. Do you know what that does? It cost me in HR departments with the Raiders and the Florida Panthers losing jobs because she lied and said I was a danger to protection order. I've seen her 5 times in person in the last 10 years. 4 of those times were in court. The other times was when my dad wanted to go somewhere and she's there locking her office door so nobody can get her files and her money and the insurance policy she's taking out on my dad. And you'll see maybe these messages, you'll see the 2 sides, depression and anger. So you saw the tearful depression side. Now you can see some of the anger, righteous anger, good anger, godly anger. Like if an innocent dog is getting beaten to death, somebody stands up and says something. And it's not, against the law to have a First Amendment right to speak, to defend an abuse victim, to report on abuses, to tell to try to get something done with the government and agencies and the law department. Thank God we've got a new government now that's not as corrupt as this other one. And my lawyer didn't want to do a conflict of interest, but I don't want to get into all that. Okay, I'll get into it maybe. But the point is, she files that in the order and says that. And the next line is, I'm the caretaker and Mark wants his father to divorce me. It's not illegal to divorce somebody. And first of all, my father wanted that help and to leave her. And I said, let's just separate, Dad. Don't divorce. Just leave her. Let's have peace. Let's have prosperity. Let's have joy. But that's not the way she looks at it. She's a paid caregiver who's not a good one, or a caretaker, and that's not a devoted wife. That's what she's in it for. Because I've said this before, and you can typically look at it. When he met my mom, he had this much money. She had this much. Life goes by like this. He loses everything, and she gains everything. Dies with a house. He dies homeless and broke. She has a paid-for house and a car, can afford a lawyer, and going on vacations. And my father said at the time of his death, she had $1 million in her bank account. He saw it, and my dad never lied to me. Never lied to me, my daddy. Never. Neither did my mom. My mom was even more truthful than my dad. If my dad lied, he maybe lied once. He told a white lie to protect somebody. That was it. So that's what happens. Also, his money was like this. He got this kind of treatment. All a fake, all an act. But when his money went down, so went his treatment or mistreatment increased. He was worried. He said that he had Evans. She was cheating on him. She was going to kill him. She was waving knives at him. I heard it. I heard her talk to him. I heard her threaten his life. I have recordings of it. But apparently, when you file that kind of protection order in a corrupt court, it's illegal to defend the innocent, the elderly, the used and abused. It's illegal to get divorced. It's illegal to speak out on the crime because the law enforcement is doing nothing. The courts are doing nothing. And then this judge sides in her favor. Of course, a white, woke Democrat, same age. They even went to the same school. Emma Willard, they were there at the same time. The lawyer didn't want to say conflict of interest. And this lawyer was as corrupt as could be. He didn't want to defend me because he read on some website I was worth $8 million. He said, I shouldn't even be defending you. I sent him an envelope with information. He said the envelope arrived empty. This guy could not be trusted. Okay, so having said all that, I'm battling this court order, and the court says you're not allowed to talk to your own father. You're not allowed to have interaction with him. He's not allowed to help him with a divorce or help him to be free from abuse. Help him to be free from, it's one thing I know, she gets power of attorney, which she knew from the beginning. This quote-unquote Christian woman who deceived my father. And yet my father leaves a lot of stories about that. A Christian woman and has 4 daughters, like I told you in the first half, mistreated my dad. How is it a Christian woman supposedly who comes to my father wanting to have a Bible study in an office? Who wants to have a Bible study in a business office? Wants to meet the wealthy widower, which is what she said. Sees my dad in a new suit and new Cadillac every year. I have video of her looking like she's stalking him 5 years before that when he's with my mom, married to my mom. But I'm apparently, the one who's, needs the protection order. And the 4 daughters all ironically married Jewish men. And I don't want to, I don't care if people think I'm, anti-Semitic. I care what God thinks, okay? I followed Jesus most of my life, okay? A Jew, okay? But it's typical why, I'm pretty certain these guys have money. Evil. The brother kills himself. A pastor dies up on my dad's property while she's with him. Okay? The brother is a degenerate gambler, and I'll get to that. But that doesn't really matter right now. The point is, this is the protection order that's taken, because here's the bottom line. A gold digger loses all this money if they die divorced, because my dad even said he tried to tell, and this is going to be a real problem for certain people, and I'll probably mention their names, that my dad said she's going to kill me. She's throwing knives at me. She's threatening me. She's blooding my nose. She throws me down. She's going to kill me. She killed her first husband for inflated life insurance policies 3 months before the husband dies. The husband dies just a couple months after she meets my father, and she admits to my father, according to my dad, he alleges, that she did it to clear a path to get to him. He had evidence of it. She hides the evidence. She destroys the evidence. She even threatens him with the evidence. You know what? If you don't give me your money, I'm going to do the same thing to you that I did to him. Her sister, the same thing, said he threw him out of a 9-story window. Now, my dad was never mentally ill. Neither am I. He never had Alzheimer's. He never had dementia. Because here's the thing that my recent study showed on Alzheimer's, which is what I knew before. And I can give you a lot of things. First, he was talking about memories, things that he knew from 70 years ago. He never forgot his children's name. He didn't really forget dates. What he was, and I have to apologize to him because he wasn't codependent as much as I thought he might be. He just got so habitualized and so in a cult-like control to having to ask her and get permission from her for everything. Like I said, she controlled all the banking, controlled the food consumption, controlled whether he could go and go in and out, isolated him. So he had to be dependent on her. And then as this, fractured his brain because he didn't have Alzheimer's. Because here's the big thing about Alzheimer's that people, might not study, is it gets progressively worse. My father was the same. He was the same the day he died as it was 5 years 10 years earlier when she started telling me he had Alzheimer's, trying to convince him of that. So she had a reason to take care of him. And he had a doctor's report that said he was in the top 5% of people his age mentally. I recorded him from 7 years earlier. I talked to the man. She took a tape recorder and to try to get the doctor on tape to say that he had Alzheimer's so she could justify, not only controlling him for power, because you want, they did to Joe Biden in that sense, a political reference, but so she could constitute how she's getting paid, how she's making money. Okay? And she's got this, getting my money that I'm giving my father, but accuses me of stealing from him. If I stole from him, why are you keeping the money? You got at least 5,000. His wealthy son, Joseph, who's, his God is, pride, competition, and money. I mean, he's just as bad as her almost. And he's going to have, his day is coming in court. He's going to have, you can't keep falsely accusing people, turn a blind eye, and protect those who are abusing the elderly. Especially my dad, especially, in my life, certainly my dad. Okay? So having said that, he never had Alzheimer's because it never got degenerative. And like I said, I've tested him. I don't want to give you a lot of examples, but he never forgot names. He didn't even forget birthdays. Let me tell you what happened on his 90th birthday. His 90th birthday. Instead of him being celebrated for turning 90, she doesn't acknowledge it, doesn't organize a party. He's not allowed to talk to me, either by protection order. I don't know if it was in place at that time or whatever. She confiscated his phones. She monitored every call. She monitored emails. She did censored. She did all of that. She controlled. My father didn't send an email in his life. So she sets up for him on his 90th birthday. She sets up a doctor's appointment for him. That's his gift. And he thinks she's going to get his legs or something checked. That's what she tells him. Instead, she doesn't pick him up. Some bus or not ambulance service, I don't want to say it was an Uber. So it was either CDTA, the handicapped vehicle or something. And my father was handicapped. He used a walker because he was frail, but he wasn't handicapped. Or she might have called an Uber. I don't know. Takes him to the doctors, and he's subjected to another one of these mental tests to try to prove he has Alzheimer's. That's his gift for his 90th birthday. That's what this person gave my daddy for his 90th birthday. My father was incensed. He's like, Mark, all she wants to do, and I knew it, I heard it. I heard her tell him this. Threatened him with it. This is what you tell people you have. You don't do that, you don't eat. This is what you do. You don't effing do this. You don't effing get any money. You don't effing get to make bets. You don't effing get to play the horses. You don't effing get to talk to Mark no matter what happens. Mark is kidnapping you. Mark can't take care of you. Really? Mark won 40 grand at some point in one day. After I was, I saw my father, I won October 6th, 2022. Whatever it was. I sent all that money spent on my father, not all of it, 90% of it. She got most of it. And Joey is sending her thousands of dollars. My father is begging. Mark, all she does is get life insurance policies on me. She's going to profit even more after I'm gone. I'm only alive because she makes $1,100 from me, my Social Security. I've got him on recording telling me, I'll expose this later. But crimes, okay? These are not just sins, these are crimes. It's a crime to abuse people. It's a crime to neglect people. Now, let me get to the other part of this, this protection order thing. again, a gold digger cannot have the divorce because you lose out on the insurance. And if you leave, like my father said, he goes, Mark, when she finds out she's going to make more money from my death, she'll kill me. They're fighting. They get in fights. Okay? So I'll get to that part. The other part is, she said I'm harassing her. I'm not allowed a First Amendment right to speak. I've never threatened her. I never told anybody to threaten her. Her people threatened me. They threatened to kill me. One of her Facebook friends. I don't know those type of people. I don't know that many people. I'm not telling people, friends of mine to go hurt her. My dad wanted her in jail. I said, no, Dad, let's not even worry about that. My dad wanted to kill her at points. He said, Mark, I could probably kill her. I said, no, Dad, don't. You don't think that. He goes, Mark, but you don't understand. She's beating me up. Then I said, Dad, you can't do that. So you know what he said? He said, I'll kill myself then. He wanted to roll his wheelie walker, one of those little mobile scooters, into the middle of the road. He wanted to go through a plate glass window. That's what happens in abuse cases. Either the abused kills the perpetrator, they kill themselves, or they get killed. That's the only three outcomes in an abuse case. Look at OJ and Nicole. Did you see the pictures of this woman she had locked in a safety box? OJ, God rest his soul, was beaten, and God rest her soul, was beating the hell out of her. Well, of course he did that. And the young kid happened to be there. Enraged with jealousy, but control, power, disrespect. And my father, like I said, I can't tell you everything, but my father caught her with other men. Chasing rich men, leaving him, his daily routine was this. So I'll get back to that. But the harassment part. So again, no First Amendment right. It's a crime to divorce. It's a crime to report on a crime. It's a crime to try to get people to help when nobody will help. When APS won't help, when the government won't help, when she greets the police at the door and locks my father in a room and says, you know what, you got Alzheimer's, don't listen to him, he's demented, he's mentally ill. Believe me, don't believe him. Hundreds of messages, hundreds. Did she once fear for her life? No. You see her leaving messages, he's going to kill her. I got to talk the poor man off of killing himself. He wouldn't. It's not his nature to kill people. It's just not his nature. He wasn't going to kill her. She's setting me up. Police coming to my door with guns to my brain. Two of them, years ago, in a case that I mentioned, falsely accused me of stealing a truck. My computer stolen, set up by her friends. I mean, people, at the racetrack. But I'm not worried about my life. I'm worried about saving the life of my daddy. So that's called harassment. This woman has total immunity from what? Everything? Because of this corrupt judge, this demonic, evil judge, and that legal system and that little family court, and the police force, which is going to be held to pay for a certain DiBello, because my father begged that police force to help him. Begged him. But that police force turned a blind eye and instead kicked my father out of town. And you don't kick, and there's a recorded message, and you're going to hear this on something I think upcoming, of me saying this. When you hear that a younger person, and I know it's odd or rare, but I've studied this, and I started the Perspective Side of Popsicle Foundation to combat things like this, these injustices. You think of the male, the wife beater, in the wife beater's shirt, muscle shirt, beating up the woman. No, and I'm checking the time here. Sorry, I got 10 minutes. If the power makes it that long. But a younger woman for money can abuse and beat up and cultishly control a male, an elderly, weak one who happens to be just an amazing, nice, lighthearted, kind-hearted man who's been, had this done for 35 years. When you report that to the police, you don't just tell them to leave town. You investigate it. Geez, and he's contending this happened to another husband. This guy was ripe for being a victim. So again, and I'll accelerate this a little bit. That's not harassing people. That's pleading and begging for help and justice. But now at least there's a new administration, because in this New York, between that evil governor, of course, white, Democrat, female. Letitia, what's-her-face, the AG, James. Same as this family court judge. Evil. Not only evil, but criminal. I'm not the criminal. I'm not harassing anybody. I'm reporting a crime. I didn't threaten people with their lives. I didn't do any. I didn't beat people up. I didn't neglect them. Because here's the thing, and then you can see this on my Facebook page, and you can look at this link, because I'm probably not going to put in the inserts. I'm just going to go back to work. But here's a couple of poignant points that I'll try to make, if I can get to closing, because I'm probably just going to talk for another 10 minutes. Look at what I tried for months. I tried to get an autopsy. Nobody would do an autopsy. I couldn't ask Joseph because he wouldn't pay. He won't pay a nickel, just like she wouldn't pay. And I almost sound like her listening to that tape. God forgive me, because I listened to that tape so much of her degrading and just the indignity toward my daddy, who gave her everything, and she's begging for the last amount of money and independence he has, his own Social Security, screaming at, threatening him. Again, like I heard her do multiple times with everything. I couldn't get the autopsy because let me tell you this. Here was his daily routine. They didn't sleep in the same bed most of the time. He was up many nights in fear. She leaves in the morning. She leaves him a plate of food like a dog because my dad couldn't cook. It's that 10% of things he couldn't do. You know what his main meals were when he knew her, his longest meals? Cereal and microwave hot dogs. He had cereal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Excuse me. That's what he had. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Cereal. She's out doing whatever she's doing, and that she leaves him alone all day. He's lonely. He's, takes out a protection order so he can't talk to her, be her son, and God forbid, like I said, divorce or leave. As she's taking out multiple insurance policies, and he's watching it. He says, Mark, as soon as the balance sheet switches, I'm going to be, dead. She's going to kill me. Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, I heard them fight. You know why? She was there. She'd leave him alone all 5 days of the week. But she'd put on this. The only time she went out was to do whatever she had to do for her narrative. If she finally, if there was something that had to, show that she was, doing something to justify taking care of him, or certainly putting up this front to his family. Not me, these other children of him who were all gaslighted because either they're ungodly, they're spiteful, they're ignorant, they're just dumb, or or maybe 1 in 10 was gaslighted. A 10% chance. Because, how much more evidence did you need? But again, it's that, you know what? We don't like Mark. So we're not going to follow the laws of God. We're not going to follow the Constitution and the laws of the country. We just don't like Mark. He tells the truth too much. He's too loud. He's too much like his father. He's too mean. He whatever the case is. We don't like him. So we're going to let this go. And we believe her because, again, and this is their 10% caveat that they get. And I'll give this to the youngest one, Susan, was 11. They didn't have the real godly good mother. They had to have this one acting like a mother, stepmother, whatever the hell she is. Sorry, low battery warning again. And they learned that this is what women do. They use and abuse men for money. I heard this woman in front of my fiance at the time, Darcy, sat there and said, when I was talking about something financial with Darcy, this Donna says in front of my dad and me, these men don't know what they're here for. Meaning they're here only to make us money. That's what men are here for. They're here to make us money. We don't have to have sex with them. We don't have to be good wives. We don't have to do anything 10 minutes after we're married. We don't have to do any of that. We don't have to give them children. We don't have to give them animals. Take care. All we have to do is, because you know what? My father was nothing but an ATM machine. That's all he was to her. So again, they fought on Fridays and Saturdays. Because Friday, and God forbid, and I heard this myself, her threaten him and F-bomb him on a Saturday when he wanted to play the horses with his own money. That's my effing money. You're losing my effing money. Don't you? It's my, he's like, no, it's my money. No, it's my effing money. Everything you have is mine. And I'm not effing letting you do this. You're lucky I effing feed you, and then you better sit down or this effing knife is going to be yours. So they fought on Saturdays. And Sundays he liked to play football games. Whether it was $1 or $10 or $100, because he used to bet thousands on games. Or even watch the game. No, she controlled everything. That's what you do when you're an abusive cult leader. You control everything. And you have to beg just to eat. Because he can't even have the money to eat. Can't get, and again, I'm handcuffed literally almost because I'm living in a prison in my mind, not knowing whether I'm going to be arrested or jailed or what she's going to do to me next or falsely accuse me of next. I got me and my daddy's recordings, evidence, the truth. Put my hand on a Bible or in a lie detector. So having said that, that's when they fought. That's when this man, 50 pounds less than her, he didn't smoke. He never drank. He was never overweight. He was in good shape for 91 for his age. He never looked his age. He never did hard drugs. Health conscious. He's rushed into a hospital on a Saturday, whenever he was rushed, Saturday, Holy Saturday, not ironically around the same time Jesus is being crucified. And I looked at the death report, which I had to purchase. So I encourage you, and who's ever watching, okay, I got to wrap this up in 3 minutes. Look at the death report that I put there. I couldn't get an autopsy. I couldn't get a coroner or a medical examiner to look at the death report, but I got AI, artificial intelligence. It's just what I suspected. The abuse and a possible neglect. Hard to prove murder because he died on Easter Sunday morning, and the next thing you know, he's being buried on Friday. Pretty quick turnaround. I looked at research. It takes usually, most things are 2 weeks. This is quick. Even changed from the funeral home, looks like. And to his 10% credit, I'm sure, I knew this would happen. Joey was stuck, his wealthy second son, paying for the funeral. I'm told he left no will. Really? You mean my father left no will? I'm his son, not that I want any money, but on principle, 63 years, not a single possession, no will. Of course, reports he left no life insurance. No life insurance. The man was a businessman with a publicly held company, traded company. All the 8 kids he took care of, a wife he took care of hospice. You're telling me he died without any insurance, no will, and I got nothing, not a single token, memento, or any kind of archive from my own pop? Nothing? Really? That death report totally speaks of criminality. Totally speaks of criminality. And if the autopsy was done, because he's not only afraid he's going to get stabbed or he's going to get, beaten up where it comes to sepsis or an infection, or she's not going to be there to take care of him. Like I heard when she left him in a fire, there was a fire alarm going off at his house, at her house. She was nowhere to be found. He could have died. The fire alarm was faulty. He could have died in a fire. I had to help. But he was afraid he was going to be drugged and overdosed. Multiple drugs he didn't need, she's giving him. Her daughter, a PA, a physician's assistant, is illegal to give medication, and she's giving him medication. Giving pill bottles. That autopsy screams of criminality, abuse, neglect, and a good chance of manslaughter. Murder that says will be hard to prove. Now, I'm not fighting for revenge, I'm fighting for vengeance. For the vengeance, the remembrance of my daddy, who remains alive on the internet because of my work and my love and devotion and my honor of him. Not where there's nothing. You can't find anything on him with her, in her, work with him or her life with him. Even his autobiography is tainted. Nothing on her ex-husband, and my dad said his death, he owned an overhead door company. You don't see anything. You can't, I do this kind of stuff sometimes. I have to research stuff. I researched this. I see nothing on that man. And my father went to his grave thinking and knowing, and I'm, believing he was going to be murdered. She was going to kill him for money. And his family, I'll close with this, I guess. It's one thing knowing Satan is Satan. That's their nature. She's a Satan's agent. There's no doubt. But his family, how could you take the side of somebody that's not your blood like your father? How could you be so deceived? You think somebody's going to take care of him. He could have hired a caretaker for 10 times less and gotten 100 times better treatment. Not let him see or be with his own son. How do you endorse that? How do you befriend this person? How do you support this person? What do you? I mean, how ungodly can you be? Your mother, that stepmother of yours, whatever you want to call her, my birth mother, your father's wife, the person he chose to mother you. None of you exist were it not for this man. Do you understand? And the upbringing and all that he gave to all of you. All of us. How do you do that to him? How do you turn your back on him? How do you not do everything? How do you not believe me? What sin and crime did I do to any of you in 30 years? You have to know, don't you know I existed for my dad? To defend his life, I told you this was going to happen 30 years ago. 35 years ago. I told you. How do you think he felt? Being betrayed not only by her, to find out all he was worth was his money. Scared to death he must have been. And all of you betraying him, loving your gods of money, or your spouses, or your other children, or your jobs, or your hatred of him or me so much that you would not defend him. And that you would choose to go along with her and not take her side, see me falsely accused and jailed, brought to the brink of homelessness and poverty myself, having to contend and fight in court for 4 years just to save my daddy's life, just to talk to him on the telephone. You can all go to hell. Not you personally, but those evil spirits in you. God bless and forgive all of you.
Please get back to me as soon as you can. I'm under threat by my little chubby wife here, and we just returned, and this is a major blow up, and I don't think it's survive this one. But she has to go to jail. She has to have repose for her. She can't go on killing people, even though she's just threatening me another little bit but she can't go on killing people and get away with it. I'll wait to hear from you. Thank you. As soon as you can. Bye. I'd better be soon, because my wife, darling, just gave me notice. She said, I better find a place to live. I don't want to be near her, because before I finish, I like to believe that she's going to be in jail, and I don't want to be in a jail cell next to her. But she's in. So we have to accelerate. I have to accelerate my departure here. And so, if you just put that in your computer and get back to me on this cell phone. Have the number. It's 477-3085. Thank you. I'm calling everybody I can, anybody I can. So we'll see what happens. But I know I didn't kill anybody, so I'm not worried about jail. And she has killed more than one. Bye.